Hey, and welcome back to the Fully Booked Photographer Podcast. And we are in session 3 of a 9-part series on the 9 secrets, the 9 keys to running a successful photography business. And I have Janine, Brad, and Jonathan with me again today, trying to get rid of them. Can't get rid of them. They keep turning up. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So say hello, guys.
Hey, everybody. Excited about today's episode.
The silence. See,
hello, guys. Brad is looking at me saying, does he talk first or do I talk first? And I was looking at Brad going, does he talk first or do I talk first? So,
and then neither of us spoke. Wonderful start. What a great start.
Our telepathy didn't work there, Brad.
See there, I thought you were pausing for effect, but you just couldn't decide who was going to talk first. That's unusual, Janine, for those two, isn't it?
I know, usually they're fighting over each other to talk first.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, let's get down to some serious chat about this third session on sales, because, you know, we see it all the time. We see sometimes our members saying to us, oh, my campaign, my marketing didn't work. I got crap leads, right? And I got a booking and they cancelled, and all this sort of crapology that they go on with sometimes. They don't mean to. It's just we haven't educated them well enough. It's our problem, not theirs. So, Janine, you know, like it's important. Excitement's important, right? It's really, really, really important. And another really important thing, Janine, is to look outside our industry to see what the best of the best do, right? Because we can learn so much from that. And I know you, as having a brand positioning statement, with Disney being your brand positioning statement, that you learn a lot from them, and you've learned a lot from them around this area too.
Yes. So if we're talking about like the excitement of bringing people into the studio, I get it's funny. Maybe not only is it my brand positioning statement, maybe I just like to go to Disney a lot, and I use that as an excuse to do market research for the studio. But as a Floridian, right, I go to Disney quite often, and it's, you know, an hour up the road, and we frequent there a lot. And typically I just go as a Florida resident, where we just go for the day and come home. Well, it was about 10 years ago. I think my daughter was about 5. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to do this like everybody else in the world, and I'm going to do a Disney vacation. I'm going to call through their booking company. I'm going to book a vacation. I'm going to stay on property. We're going to do several days. We're going to do the dining plan, the whole 9 yards. Like, I just decided to go. It's her 5th birthday. We're going to do the whole thing. So booked it with one of the Disney vacation planners. And about a week later, I get this box in the mail. And I was like, oh, what's this? I wasn't expecting a box in the mail. And I opened this box, and you could tell it was from Disney because it had it all over. It just looked really cool, the box. You open it up, and the lid, it says, welcome to your family vacation, Janine McLeod. And I was like, oh, look at this. And I open it, and there's a letter with a little Cinderella castle hologram on it. And it was all welcoming me to my vacation, and it had all the details of everything I had reserved. This is right about when they started doing the magic bands. And so our magic bands were all in there. And then what set it off for me was, of course, like, the magic bands were pretty cool. Back then they were. And the letter that was all personalized. But then there was something else in the box. And it was a map to Disney. Well, again, I have the park memorized pretty much by this point. But I opened it up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it says the McLeod family vacation on the top of the map. And I was blown away. I was like, holy cow, this is so freaking cool. They personalized a map just for me for my vacation. And they even put, like, from the questions they had me ask, they had put little dots on our favorite rides. I mean, they basically customized everything for me. And I was just floored. And then, of course, me being me, I sat down after being floored by it and wowed by this experience and thought, crap, I need to up my game at the studio. Because when people are coming to the studio for a session, they were at that point just getting an email confirmation. They weren't really getting much else from us except for a call the day before to make sure that they were coming for their session. So I sit down, that night I sat down, I'm like, I got to revamp it all. I suck at this. I got to change everything. And that packet inspired me to redo our excitement sequence for the studio. And that's when I started sending out for our themed sessions packets that matched the theme and talk to the child, not just the parent. So it basically gives the necessary information to the parent to show up on time, make sure their kids are dressed with what they need to be wearing, but it's all in a themed language to make it fun. And then gifts for the child. So that way the child has something to get as well. And so now we carry that through to all of our sessions that we do. And so what goes home is it starts that wow factor as opposed to just a generic email. The emails are fun too. We've changed our wording on that, but it starts off the session in a magical way, which is it's that first impression really, right? They book that session and now they get this in the mail and they're like, oh, wow, I've never gotten that from a photographer before. And they're wowed by the experience before the experience truly even begins in the studio. And I never stop getting ideas, Ronan. And I'm sure that shocks you too. But every time, like all the companies that I love, Disney being one, obviously Starbucks being another, basically companies that care about the client experience, I'm always looking and getting ideas because it never stops. I mean, every day in the studio, we're looking for ways to improve that excitement sequence and our communication to our clients. So that way, when they come in, they're excited and they're ready to go. And the whole process is just above and beyond what they ever expected.
Janine, there's a lot of psychology behind this. You sent me at Christmas time, Ronan, read this book. It was about moments, right? And this idea of we remember certain moments. We don't remember everything from an experience, right? But there's key times where you need to sort of up the amp on the excitement for your clients, right? And the start before they ever come into you is one of those, right?
It is. It's the power of the moment. And it's a great book. I highly recommend anybody who is working to improve a client experience in their business to read this book because it gets you to think about the moments and not just everything as a whole, but each part of the journey. So that way you can create this magic moment for your clients and they remember that. And that's what look, it's been 10 years and I still remember that map. I don't remember a lot about that vacation, to be honest with you. I remember the map. I remember getting that map. And so it's just funny the moments that we can create and the impact that it has on our clients.
So you're a great believer, Janine, in charging a booking fee, right? Because that'll get them excited to turn up.
Ronan, you're hilarious. No, I don't charge a booking fee because I don't believe that money is a reason why people show up for a session. I believe it all has to do with the excitement. And if people are excited, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor's office, right? So, people don't want to go to a doctor. They have to charge you cancellation fees because you mess up their schedules when you don't show up. We're a fun, exciting place to be. People should want to come here and have their children's portraits created. They should want to come here and have fun with their family and create these unbelievable experiences together. Charging $50 to make sure they show up, charging $200 to make sure they show up, it doesn't even matter what it is. That's not going to get them excited. How does money down excite people to show up for a session? It just never has made sense to me. To me, it seems more like a penalty. And I never want any of my clients to feel like they're being penalized to come have fun with me. It is strictly how we excite them. I tell you, Ronan, the only time people do not show up for a session here is if they're sick. And I don't want them to come if they're sick. And we're very clear that if you're sick, please don't come. Please don't get us sick. We will reschedule your session and everything will be fine. Even if we have to put your cake in the freezer, right? We will reschedule it. Don't come sick. So the only reason people don't come is if they're sick or if something really bad does happen or something out of their control, and then they reschedule. But if you're going to get, if you're going through an experience and you are excited to be there, you're not going to just no show. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen.
And it's really interesting, right? Because we had a concierge client that we work with and they did a test recently. So they always charge the refundable booking deposit. And they've done a test, and what they've discovered from it is that it's easier to book people without the deposit, and it hasn't affected their show-up rate. Interesting.
So this is not something uniquely genie. I feel like Janine is a genie sometimes with her bottle, and these magic potions come up to get people to turn up. So this is not a genie Janine alone thing, right? It's about the excitement. It doesn't matter how much you charge. It's the excitement that's going to get them to turn up.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I just want to point out, like in part 3 today, Ronan, we're talking about your sales system. So having a great sales system is part of running a successful photography business. So for us, the sales starts once you've made that booking. Once you've converted that lead into a booking, they're now in your sales system. And the first step of that is your pre-booking nurturing. It's building the excitement and the trust, right? And we see it all the time. Oh yeah, we booked in these leads and they didn't show up, and I don't know why, and we took a deposit, and it's not about that. It's about what Janine talked about. It's about getting them ready for their experience, because that's what they're coming in for. So if you're boring in your your pre-session nurturing, then they're probably not going to show up because they don't care enough. And it's your job to make them care enough, or to help them realize they have to care enough.
So, Brad, we don't want to talk too much because of that bad cough you have. But, I know we've put the cart before the horse, right? But let's go back a step. So we've got the booking, and Janine's just shared with us how to keep them excited. And you can learn from big companies out there like Disney who do this well. There's a lot of big companies who do excitement really, really badly too. So the ones that do well, like Disney and Starbucks in Janine's case. But talk to us, Brad, about the phone, right? Because a lot of photographers seem to be afraid of the phone. Not necessarily answering the phone when it rings in, but actually picking up the phone to reach out to somebody who says, please talk to me. Please tell me what you have to offer.
Ah! Oh, sorry, my phone rang. Sorry.
I thought a bug landed on his camera.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Oh.
I thought there was a spider.
You frightened the out of me anyway. That's what I know. I'm sure our listeners are going, what the hell was that?
Thank you, Jana. But yes, the phone is big, bad, and scary. Well, it is if you want it to be. So I think that's the biggest takeaway that I've ever had from understanding the phone. Is it's scary when you're afraid of it, and it's something that you don't want to do, and you don't see the benefit in doing it. But a great quote I read many, many years ago, and I'm probably going to butcher it now because I haven't prepped and I don't have it on screen because you're going to ask me that question, Ronan. But while I'm racking my brain for this quote, and it's gone completely. I had it, and then it's completely gone. That's terrible.
Just like going to pick up the phone and the phone's not there, but it really is.
Yeah. We'll play it off exactly like that, Ronan. But this cough, honestly, I've been coughing for a week. I can't shake it. It's the most annoying thing ever. But it doesn't stop me from taking calls or being here today and speaking, because I think a lot of people, or a lot of photographers I know anyway, like to bring up excuses as if to why they don't want to be on the phone and why they don't want to make calls and make bookings. And ultimately, my two best top tips for how to book more people in, or how to take phone calls more seriously for your business, is the first one is you just have to up your exposure rate to actually making phone calls. It's the first question I always ask when members come to me and say, Brad, I've not made enough bookings. Well, how many calls did you make? And 99% of the time, they've not made the amount of bookings they want. It's because they've not made the amount of calls they should have made.
It's hard though, Brad. Like, I remember back when I started selling I'm going to give you a voice a break for a second. I remember when I started selling first, right? I remember I used to be terrified of going in to see clients, new clients, or knock on the door, or, get the kahunas or whatever I need to actually just do it. And when I look back on it, it was actually fear of rejection. It was actually, I couldn't deal with the rejection. I hadn't read that book, Go for No and Celebrate the No's, and all that stuff. And that was a bit harder because this was cold calling. These were the days where we didn't have the internet and we didn't have email nurturing. We didn't even have email. So you had no choice. If you wanted to sell, you had to go knock on the doors, right? That was it. You had to pick up the phone and knock on the doors. And I used to do cold calling. Like, I didn't even phone beforehand. It was go knock on the doors, and try and get in to see the ad agencies and the graphic designers for what we were selling at the time. So, so it was hard, it was hard to do that. But this is different, right? Because if you have a proactive marketing system in place, they're actually expressing an interest in what you have to offer. So it's not like cold calling, right? It's not like any of that. It's they want to hear from you.
No, it's nothing like that. And I've done that in the past, buying data, baby data, back when you could do that, and essentially cold calling people. Yeah, they filled the form out, but they filled it out months ago. They weren't expecting a phone call at all. And that was tough. That was hard. But what we're doing right now in my business is nothing like that. People are fully prepared to accept our phone call and are excited when we actually do phone them and speak to them. It's completely different. It's not cold calling in the slightest. It's essentially, it's a wonderful excitement call for the client. And so I remembered my quote before I remembered my quote while you were speaking there. It came back to me, and it was that to be successful, you have to do the things you don't want to do. Because I was the same. I didn't like calling for my studio. I used to be the phone man in my studio many, many years ago, and I didn't like it. But if I wanted to meet the bookings targets we had, I had to be on the phone. So I had to suck it up. I had to phone those clients and excite them about having a wonderful photographic experience with us.
Janine, I have this vision of Brad now as a phone man ringing,
It is a lovely vision to have.
I can just picture him moving side to side and going ling 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 ling. All right, Jonathan, let's bring it back more serious for a second.
I love when Rona makes himself laugh.
So Jonathan, talk to me. Do you know what, Janine? You have to sometimes, because most people don't laugh at my jokes. So there has to be somebody in the audience that laughs. So sometimes that just has to be me. So Jonathan, tell us, about how we can help people even become accountable to themselves, right? So I know this new fully booked engine software that we've launched, right? Helps with all this, and helps not only with bringing some accountability, but bringing systems around you and just encouraging you to go ahead and pick up the phone and make the calls. And in fact, can help you get better at your calls. Talk to us about that.
Are you asking me to plug the fully booked engine?
Not to plug it, to explain to people why it's designed the way it's designed, right? Why we've built this platform to help photographers become fully booked, because that's what this podcast is called, right? The Fully Booked Photographer.
Sure, I can talk about the fully booked engine all day long. I mean, one of the key things, right, we've seen with our members is that either A, they don't want to do something, so they don't do it, like Brad has said, because they're afraid of the phone, or they're afraid of talking to people, or whatever it might be. Or B, they know what they have to do. They think they do it, but they don't actually do it. Right? So that's another aspect. So one of the benefits of, helping bring people from, say, that lead to booking stage and having those conversations and actually holding yourself accountable is to track it. So we've taken our proven strategy that works really well at helping photographers become fully booked, and we've built it into the fully booked engine software that we offer to our members. So in that, it's we've built out the pipelines and the funnels and the follow-ups and the tasks and the actions that you need to take, basically, to have more conversations and to get more bookings and become fully booked.
So Janine, do you think this phone thing, how we use the phone, how we get Brad to ding, 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 do you think that changes? Do you think that changes depending on the marketing generation that we're sort of talking to, right? Because we know with the marketing generations, so like you're Gen X, we happen to be the same marketing generation, Janine, even though you look about 30 years younger than me. And then we have Jonathan, who's a Gen Y, Brad, who pretends to be a Gen Z, but he's really a Gen Y. And then we've got Gen Z or Gen Z, depending where you are in the world. And now we've Gen C coming straight up behind them, right? And in a lot of states now, you know, the new mums are starting to move from millennials to Gen Z, right? So, and if I'm a high school senior photographer, it's Gen Z. So, like, do they want us to ring them on the phone, or what do we have to do to earn a conversation with them? Is it different per marketing generation? Because like my parents are used to the phone, right? They just don't know anything else. They use the phone. That's what they do. And my generation uses the phone and texts, you know. But like, where does texting and using Messenger and all these platforms fit within the marketing generations to excite them about coming in for their session, or even to earn that conversation in the first place about coming in for a session?
So that's a really good question, Ronan. This would be an exciting podcast to really deep dive into communicating with the different generations. And I do think that a lot of us have been spoiled over the years because we're marketing to Gen X and baby boomers for the most part. That's what we've been doing. And they are all phone people, right? We grew up with the phone, we use the telephone, and have gotten into text messaging. But this generation that's coming up into the buying generation, the ones that are now having kids and babies and with the families, these are, for a lot of us, this is now the generation we're photographing, those in their 30s and late 20s. They're not as keen on the phone. And especially if you're doing high school seniors and you need to talk to the high school senior, they're not really used to a phone call. And so the phone to them, they view it as an appointment, that this is something that they need to do and they need to schedule on their calendar. And so for us, talking on the phone is just talking on the phone, right? For them, it's something that's a little bit more taking up of their time that they don't necessarily want to do. And they don't understand the importance of it. I had this conversation with my daughter and she's like, I don't understand. Why do you need to be on the phone? Why can't you just take care of all of it in text message? We do everything in text message. Why do you need to be on the phone? And once I explained to her the reason why photographers need to talk on the phone with their clients, we have a lot to go over. We have a lot to collaborate on. We have a lot to decide upon. We have a lot to discuss: clothing, emotions, like finding out why they want to do the portrait session. There's just a lot of details that's hard to convey in a text message. So the text message, you have to get them to understand why they need to get on the phone with you, why it's important for them if they really want to make this session special, why they need to make that appointment with you to get on the phone, why it's crucial, why it's critical. And while this might not be happening to you, you might not be seeing this if all your clients are still Gen X and baby boomers, if you're photographing 40 plus people. But the younger you start getting into your mix of, you're going to see more and more people just want to talk via Messenger or text message or direct message in Instagram, because that's how they communicate with their friends. That's how they communicate with everyone. And so you have to earn the earning the conversation becomes even more important. And so the messages that you use, you can get a lot of done in text. And we come very close to booking sessions in text. And then we tell them, hey, now that we have your session booked, we still need to really get on the phone. And I've started using the word collaborate with you, co-design with you, because those are words that really resonate with this generation. They want to co-collaborate with us. And so we use that, and it's been working. Let's collaborate on getting to design the perfect theme for your children. Let's collaborate on coming up with the perfect outfit background combination. Then they're all about getting on the phone, because that is a lot to handle in a text message. It's really hard to go back and forth. So now we're using text almost for those that are under 40, like in their 20s and 30s. We're using text to get the conversation started, and then we're finishing it on the phone. Once they realize that we're the photographer they want to use, now we've earned that right to talk to them on the phone.
So Brad, you run a boudoir studio, right? And your ideal client is Gen X, yeah? So, what have you found about them? What strategies are most effective when you are conducting, those conversations on the phone to get a booking? What strategies do you deploy to Gen X that may be different to what Janine has to do when she's talking to Gen Y and Gen Z?
Wow, I mean, strategies make it sound like there's some kind of gimmicks involved. But ultimately, if especially with our client market, which is Gen X, which is women 40 plus, they're happy for the most part to have conversations on the phone and to engage in text messages. So thankfully, I don't have to go down that route of communicating through social media channels, which I have done in the past when we're photographing newborns and babies and clients with younger mums. But ultimately, to be able to convert a phone call from a conversation to a booking, you have to have connection. There's no gimmicks. There's no magic lines that you can say during that phone call. There's no script you can work off that's suddenly everyone can start using and get success with. You have to care. You have to care what that client's wrote about, if they filled in a why question for your studio, and what information they've given you. You have to care to have a conversation with them, to connect with them as an individual, as a person, and then to actually believe that you can help them. If you can do all those three things and then put in some qualification around price, and they're still interested and they're still very excited, then that's great. You've got a booking.
Ooh, I love when Brad brought up price. We see this all the time, right? I had a consultation with a couple of photographers the last couple of days, and they all have their full pricing on their website. And I know some people suggest that you do that, right? But what do you think of that, Janine? Full pricing on everything on your website?
I know why people do it. And I know some photographers and a lot of businesses have it. I view if you're doing that, then really your business, you're doing more order taking than you are selling the portraits afterwards according to what fits best for that client, more of a customized service. For me, I don't put full pricing out there. I put price ranges. I want people to know if they can afford us, generally, right? Speaking that, if I look at general pricing, like wall portraits start at, gift portraits start at, albums start at, so they get in a sense that, they're not going to come here and spend $5. That's all I really want to have on there. I just want it to sift and sort. If I put a full price list on there, it's just too early in the process. They have no idea what those products are. They haven't touched them. They haven't felt them yet. They haven't come in. They haven't experienced the portrait session yet. They haven't even talked to me on the phone yet if they're just looking at the website. And so to me, if you have the full price list on there, one, it's too early in the process because they haven't gotten to know who you are. They haven't had a chance to build the connection that Brad was talking about. And so if you don't have that connection, prices alone are meaningless. They have no meaning. And now you're going to have people sort themselves out for one way or another. They might think you're too cheap. They might look at the price and go, oh, wow, I was expecting to spend more than that. They must not be good. Or they might say that you're too, but without having any context, blank pricing, we're not a commodity. This isn't, you're not going to a jewelry. This isn't a commodity that we're selling. We're selling a service, we're selling an experience, and we're selling memories for that client. And to have your prices listed blankly without any context too early in the process, I think is a mistake. And I think it can cost photographers bookings and it can cost them potential clients.
All right. So if I'm a transactional experience,
yes,
well, then it's okay to have a.
And I do think that is one of the instances where it is okay to do that. Like if you're doing, and we've done it before, like where we've gone on location and did Santa portraits at a store. We put the pricing up. It was 15 minutes. Actually, it was 10 minutes. This is the price. This is what you're getting. And you had these three options. You need to know ahead of time because we have to sell you in 5 minutes. We don't have time. This wasn't an experience, an emotional experience. This was a transactional experience. Are you doing the 5, the 10, or the 15? And that is a little bit different. It's not an experience-based sale. It's almost an order-taking sale. And so there are, this is why I never like to say anything so cut and dry because there can be instances where that might be what you need in order to do the volume of sales that you're doing. But if you're working on the basis of doing the experience and bringing people in and doing a consultation and trying to design artwork that meets their family's needs, putting blanket pricing up on your website for every product you offer, one, it's overwhelming and confusing. And two, it's just way too early in the process.
Because they don't know what they want themselves.
They don't know what they want.
Or what they need.
Nope.
That's the idea. That's why you need a phone call, to understand your client and the reason why they want this session experience. And you can't do that. You can't quote prices before you know that.
No, you can't. And I would even say you have to be careful with the prices that you quote on the phone too. And we are very careful with the prices. The prices the prices we quote on the phone, because until they've come in and experienced it or touched the products, they don't know. I mean, if we just said, "Oh yeah, our albums are $1,595," what does that mean? You know, they don't have any context with what that would mean. We can't just say that on the phone. And so they have to come in. They have to experience everything with you before these prices start to make sense. And so when you start introducing price too early, or detailed price, let's say that, because I do believe you should introduce price ranges. People need to understand if it's something that they can afford. But detailed prices too early can kill your chance of getting the booking and getting people in front of your camera.
And we've seen people like giving a full description of the product when it's not about the product, it's about the emotion and everything else that goes with it and their why for coming and the experience that they get. But given all the details, and it's 1.5 inches deep frame, and it's this and it's that and the other, and that's not what it's about at all. So guys, I'm going to ask you all one by one, right, for your top tip, one top tip, right? If I'm a photographer, looking at my whole sales process, right? What would your one top tip be, Brad?
Thanks, Ronan. Nothing like throwing us in the deep end. My one top tip for the sales process as a whole: believe in yourself, believe in what you do as a photographer, and believe that you can actually make a difference to somebody's life. Because if you believe in that, then you can sell. It's not even selling then.
Brad, if I asked you for $1,000, would you give me 3?
Sure.
I know, we appreciate you giving us 3 tips, not just one. So Jonathan, same question to you. If Brad has stolen one of them, it's his fault, not mine.
As long as no one has stolen the quote, it's all good. So with your sales process, it's not about the what or the how, it's about the why. Why are they buying what they're buying? They don't give a crap, excuse my language, about the Folio Box album Waller. They care about the why, what's it doing for them.
Ooh, so how it makes them feel.
They care about how it makes them feel. Don't care about the what or the how.
All right. Janine, last but not least.
So,
Janine, when you're drinking wine, let's say, Janine, before you start, if you have 3 bottles of wine, right, and they're all different qualities, do you start with the best wine first, or do you keep it to the last?
Oh, you start with the best wine running first.
Okay, so I started with Brad. What does that mean?
So you're leaving the cheap wine for last? Thanks, Ronan. I don't know if I should give you a tip after that. Why have enemies when you can have friends like these?
We say that every day to each other, don't we?
Oy vey. Okay. Anyway, so my top tip would be that if you focus on the experience with the client and you focus on these moments that you're going to create for them and you're intentional with everything you do from the time they come into your booking system through the point where you're nurturing them, to exciting them, to getting them in front of your camera. By the time they get to the sales room, that sale should be a foregone conclusion. Now you're just working out the details on what's going to suit what they want, not if they're going to buy. Does that make sense? So if you do your whole job and you get them into that sales room, there should be no surprises, and they should want what it is that you're offering them, because they've already been sold. Because everything, as Jonathan said, it's about how they feel. And so now when they get in, it's just the details.
So I think what you guys are saying is that if you think the sale happens when they come to see their images or photos, it hasn't. The sale starts well before you ever even lift the camera. So thank you for sharing all that. And guys, you amazing podcast listeners of ours, we have a gift for you. We have a gift for you. The gift we have for you is that we have recorded what we've talked about in this session within our 9 keys to creating a successful photography business. And all you have to do to get it is just click on the link below and it'll bring you to that course. Have a look at it. Tell us what you think of it. If you love this podcast, just make sure you hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating. And if there's any subject you would like us to address on this podcast, please just comment in the comments below. And we promise you, we'll get to it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but we'll get to it. So on that note, guys and girls and lads and lassies, I think it's time we said goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you guys later.
See you in the next one, guys. Bye for now.